Recording in progress.
Well, that successful, she could support it. But, the same way we're using our house, I was using her restaurant. But she did have a love of touch. So the
We're just going to wait for the other class to be over and then we'll start.
Recording stopped.
here you are.
Here I am. I was just waiting for you to finish.
Thank you.
Okay.
Put your word on already.
Recording in progress.
Okay.
Apartment?
What?
Is it cold in your apartment?
Why I look like I'm dressed warm?
Yeah.
I'm wearing, I love this. I got this in Tamnun. It's the cutest.
Oh, wow.
And it's the cutest,
nice.
furriest, coziest. So it's not cold so much. A little bit, I have the heater on. But it's a beautiful day out. But I got these 2 for $140. Something like
Wow.
that. It's so cozy. Anyway, but I see it looks very bulky, so I'm gonna unzip it and whatever. Okay. So let's see what's happening in the world through the parsha, right? We have to see what's happening in the world with Parshas Vayechi. It's Chazak Chazak. We finished the book of Bereshis this Shabbos, the parsha of the blessings that Yaakov Avinu is saying to his children. He's telling them what's going to be at the end of time. he's explaining to each one of them, he doesn't give them blessings like you should have a good life and have clarity and all that stuff. That's the kind of blessings that we give each other. He gives the blessings of telling each one of them what the nature of their soul is and how they should behave and what their koach is and what their power is and what their weakness is. So in the beginning, as you know, it says that the Torah says that he tells the children, right, come together, right? Hikatsu, come together, and I'm going to tell you, He'asu, v'agida lachem et asher yikra lachem b'achrit hayamim. Come together, make an asifa, like everybody come on. He called all of the children, and he said, and I'll tell you what's going to happen to you at the Achrit Hayamim, at the end of days. And we know that this expression, the end of days, is a very, very famous expression because that's where we're in right now. So it's interesting that we're looking at the Chumash, and the Chumash is telling us that Yaakov Avinu is saying, let me tell you what's going to happen at the end of days, meaning the year's Tavshin Pei Hey, the year that we're in right now. All the tzaddikim now say that we're definitely in the end of days. And so there's two midrashim I want to learn with you about this pasuk. The first medrash tells us like this. The first medrash says that when he said, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen at the end of days, so Yaakov Avinu showed them two things. One, Reb Simon says that he showed them the war of Gog and Magog and how Gog will fail in his quest to take over the world. Gog from the city of Magog or from the country of Magog, right? People usually think, people who don't learn deeply, they think that the war of Gog Magog means Gog against Magog. But the Navi, if you read it clearly, it says that the Gog is the king of Gog from the country called Magog. We don't know right now, until it happens, we don't know who's who. People used to say that Gog is George, remember the George Bushes, senior and junior, and then people said Gog is abomination, right? And I don't think anybody accused Biden of being Gog because I don't think they thought he was smart enough or powerful enough or whatever. But Gog is the kingdom, the final war, and many of the tzaddikim say that it's not going to happen. That there are different tzaddikim who have different shitos of the war of Gog. In English, they call it Armageddon. From Gog, I guess they somehow anglicized that. But the tzaddikim say that that war is not going to happen as it's described, meaning it's a nuclear war that takes, what does the Vilna Gaon say, 8 minutes, 11 minutes? There's different shitot. It's clearly a nuclear war. And the Lubavitch Rebbe Zatzal said it's not going to happen. And Yibadal Chaim Tovim, the Yenuka says it's not going to happen. That type of war is not. In other words, a nuclear war, he's pushing it away. And so, but the Medrash says that Yaakov Avinu, our grandfather, on his deathbed, he showed the children Mapalat Gog, the destruction of Gog. In other words, the falling, the capture, or the losing of the war of Gog. That's what he said. And the other, and he brings, the Medrash brings reasons for that because of the word Achrit Hayamim. And then Rav Yehuda in the Medrash says that he showed them the Binyan Beis HaMikdash. Two different things that he showed them at the Achrit Hayamim, the destruction of Gog, in other words, the destruction of all evil in the world. Now, Gog is not Amalek. It's interesting, Amalek comes, the destruction of Amalek is the final thing that Mashiach has to do to prove himself. But before that happens Gog and Magog, and then the Beis HaMikdash comes, etc. So what does that mean? So the Shem Yishmol, remember that our project, at least for the book of Bereshit, was to learn every Shabbos a piece of the Shem Yishmol. So first he explains with this. He says that if you can, so the simple teaching of Hayas, who everybody knows the simple teaching of that we have to come together. That's it. We have to come together. Once we come together, then we are able to witness the downfall and the defeat of all of our enemies. And the sad thing is that we seem to come together, or we seem to have like the ability to come together um, only when we're being targeted or we're having a war or anything like that. And I always repeat over and over again, I repeat the same thing that is very clear to me. Whenever there's one of those predictions of Mashiach could come at any moment, the Israeli government has a crisis and they call for new elections. Why? This is the new elections are to avert our coming together, because everybody here in Israel knows that as soon as you have new elections, everybody becomes enemies. And there's fighting and there's arguing and there's polarization, etc. So, and I've just been noticing that for years and years that that's been happening. But the Medrash says that if you can come together, kulam asifa achat, if you can come together, then you can see the mapala, the downfall of all the evil and all of your enemies. And the Shemesh Shmuel says, how could it possibly be that all of these 10 brothers come together when they all had so many different opinions? There's no such thing as getting along, especially since in this parsha, Yaakov Avinu, our grandfather Yaakov, is pointing out to them all of their differences. Every one of it's not like he says everybody you should have a good life and everybody's gonna. He points out individual, unique differences between each of the tribes, and some of them get an easy to swallow bracha, and some of them get a harder. The first three, Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, they didn't have an easy time with the bracha of Yaakov Avinu because he called them out on the mistakes that they made. So how could they all consider having one coming all together? So he explains like this. He says that that who is Gog? So Gog comes from Yefet. That's why I said before that it's not Amalek. Amalek comes from Esav. Gog comes from Yefet. Remember Shem, Ham, and Yefet, right? Yefet. So we're coming from Shem, and Amalek also comes from Shem. Ham is Africa, and Yefet is Europeans and all of that. So he explains like this. He says that why is Yefet eventually going to fail and going to decline? Because what was the whole merit that Yefet had? Remember the time of the story about Noach, right? So the Noach was exposed, and Shem and Yefet come into the tent and they turn backwards. They shouldn't see their father, and they throw a beged on him. So the Shemesh Shmuel says the fact that Yefet's job and his merit was to throw a beged onto his father, a beged of clothing, an article of clothing. So an article of clothing, he says, represents chitzoniyut. Chitzoniyut means externalities, superficiality. And so Yefet has the midah, the quality of being superficial. And Yefet, even though Yefet, for example, as I said before, is all of I guess you'd call it the cultured Western world, and science and all of that. But if you look at science gets to a certain point, and then they don't go to the deepest, pneumius, internal spiritual root of anything, because they can't. That's not the tool that science has. Science has an external tool of measuring the world, etc. All the measurements and all of the descriptions of the external world, that's called Yefet. And that's their job, and so they have a certain externality. Whereas Shem, that's where we come from, gets to the root, to the root, to the root. So he says, if it was, why is it saying that come together and you'll see the downfall of Gog? It means Gog can only be superficial. On a superficial level, everybody's different. As the Gemara says, we all have different faces, we all have different dayot, we all have different ways of understanding. So on a superficial level, all of us are different, and therefore we can come together. That's yefet. But shame, Jews have the ability, Semites have the ability to get to the roots of things. In the roots of things, even though our external personalities are very different, but in the root of things, all of us, all Jews are the same. We all come from the same root of soul. We all have the same soul root. So therefore, that's why you can have Ashkenazim and Sephardim. And, I remember when we had the Corona Minyanim outside, remember that it was just whatever the building was, that's the Minyan. So in each building, you have Americans, you have Israelis, you have Ashkenazim, you have Sephardim. You have Yemenites, you have converts, you have black Jews, you have pink Jews, you have everything in the sun. They all had to make up that same minyan because that was the Corona rules, is, you made a minyan, you made a shul in the basement of the building or in the building itself or in the, the chatzer in the front, whatever. And I remember all those years ago going to the minyan that was the outside minyan by, and I was living then in Rehova Kablan. And the minyan that I went to, they didn't know what to do because there were so many different shitot of prayer. There were so many different styles of prayer. So they made up that whoever the chazan is, whoever decides to be the chazan, the prayer leader, whatever he davens, that's what he's going to daven. And so whoever got chazan in the morning shachris, if he was Ashkenazi, he daven Ashkenazi. And if he was Sephardi, he daven Sephardi. And the Baal Koreh, right? And because it wasn't a professional shul where anybody was being paid. So the one who read the Torah, the one who prepared, it's hard to prepare if you don't know. If you're an experienced Baal Koreh, one thing. But every week to have a layman prepare the reading. So whoever volunteered to prepare the reading, that's who did it. He did it according to his shita. The cute part was that there were 2 minyanim because there wasn't enough room in the knisa, in the basement in the entrance hall of the buildings for all of the different. So there was one next door to the other, one building next door to the other, and there was one kohen between both of those minyanim, and that kohen would have to go back and forth. First of all, he should be blessed. I know who he is. He's a real Chassidish guy. So he would go to sleep Friday nights. They had a long meal, and he would go to sleep very, very late. So to get up for an early minyan, it was hard. So they used to go to his house and knock on the door and wake him up. That's number one. I mean, he's a very religious man. And but his way of making Shabbos is staying up all night and then going to the latest minyan that there is. But in Corona, he didn't have that, so it was the earliest minyan, and he came and he would go from minyan next door to because right, you have to have 4. The Kohen has to bless twice. Chazarat Hashatz for Shacharis, Chazarat Hashatz for Musaf, repeating of the Shemona Esrei for Shacharis and for Musaf, and you had to have the Kohen Aliyah for the Torah. So he barely had a chance to pray. I remember I used to see him praying outside because he couldn't concentrate because he was running from back and forth to different minyanim. Then somebody in the building, somebody in the next someplace close by, found out that there was a kid whose father davened in a different shul, but the kid just turned bar mitzvah and he is a kohen. So anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that even though we were the Yefet part of the world is superficial, the Jewish people are not, and we can come to the root of our unity. And that's why we can surpass and see the destruction and the downfall of Gog, who now represents superficiality and looking at this world and not looking at Hashem. Tzaddikim look at this world, all they see is Hashem. That's all they see. All they see is Hashgacha Pratit. They see divine intervention every second. They see. Remember, I didn't tell you this last week because maybe I did tell you. Last week on Monday, we had a big rain. Right, it was Hanukkah, and it was Monday, and we had a big rain. So there's a class that I usually give in someone's house, and she said probably no one's going to come because of the combination of Hanukkah and the rain. I should give it in my house, and we'll do it on Zoom. So I did, and the internet in my house didn't work, so couldn't give the class. I gave him bits and pieces on the sent messages around, but even the fact that we can have a Zoom class together, and I didn't look to see yet who's on, but we usually get England comes and Ramat Beit Shemesh comes, all over the world we come. And on the YouTube we have she always sends me a message from, I forgot where, different countries, Australia, and thank you, Debbie. And from New Zealand we have, so we're all all over the place. But in the root of our soul, we're one. So that's the first thing that Yaakov said to them. If you can come to the place of getting to the root of your soul, which where all the Jewish people are one, even though you have so many different personalities and so many different opinions, right? One Jew, 3 opinions, 2 shuls, two Jews, 10 shuls, all those jokes, right? The second thing is that that Rabbi Huda says Hashem showed us the Beis Hamikdash, and the Beis Hamikdash is the root of ruchnius in this world, right? In other words, there's superficiality. The whole world is filled with godly presence, but where's the root of the root of the root? Where's the concentration of godly presence the most? Is in the Beis Hamikdash. So if we can come and be in our minds always at the root of things, always at the thinking about what's real and what's fake, or what's panimi and what's chitzoni, what's internal and what's external, right? What's internal, what's real, and what's not real, what's lasting and what's not lasting. If we can get to that part, then we can come to the hasaga. We can understand what the Beis Hamikdash is, and because the Beis Hamikdash is the pnimius, is the root of the reason that God created this world. That's the Beis Hamikdash. And he said that what is the connection between these 2 midrashim? Because every time there's in the medrash, whenever you have a midrash, a medrash, and there's 2 opinions, they have to also have a similarity between these 2 opinions. So he explains that the only ones who can actually see the beauty of the Beit HaMikdash are even the non-Jews, but as long as they can get to the roots of reality, which is God. So that's why Nebuchadnezzar was stupid that he destroyed the Beit HaMikdash. He couldn't see the unity of mankind in the Beit HaMikdash. All he saw was, his enemy, or his desire for control and his desire for making a name for himself. That's all he could see. He didn't, if you see the Beis Hamikdash, if you feel the Beis Hamikdash, you can only experience it. You can't destroy it. But a person who can actually destroy the building of the Beis Hamikdash, so it showed upon him that he was so chitzoni, he was so external, that he couldn't see anything special about the Beis Hamikdash, ad kedei kach, to the point where he was able to destroy it, he was able to burn it, break it down. The same thing with the Romans. They, as much as they were, whatever the military, which by the way, we were not a military threat to anybody, nor, biblically, but whatever they felt, the fact that they could harm holiness shows their lack of holiness. It's the same thing with anybody. The fact that if anybody, chas v'shalom, if any of us, God forbid, do not give honor, proper honor to a Talmid Chacham, to a Torah scholar, or to a Rav, or to each other, then what we're testifying is, I don't see the holiness of that particular person, which is a chisaron, which is an insult. We're insulting ourselves by saying, by behaving improperly towards another Jew, especially towards someone who has Torah knowledge. By behaving improperly, it's like we're pointing a finger at ourselves, right? Remember, it says when you point a finger, so you have 3 fingers pointing back at you, right? If you make your hand like that. So we're pointing a finger at ourselves, saying, I can't be, if I'm not mechabed, if I don't honor even a child, then what I'm announcing to the world is, I don't see neshamas. And I don't feel neshamas. I don't see souls. I don't feel souls. I don't see the godly soul in every human being. Okay, evil human beings, we're not required to honor, just the opposite. We're required to defend ourselves and humanity from them and protect ourselves and humanity from them. But each other, regular normative humans, and certainly regular normative Jews. So if I don't honor them, I have to be embarrassed because I'm just reminding myself how low level I am, that I don't see the holiness of the soul of that other person. So because the Gog and Magog people, they don't see holiness, so they got jealous of us. This is the connection between the two. They get jealous of us that we have a Beit HaMikdash because they don't see deeply. And because they don't see deeply, they are not worthy of a Beit HaMikdash, and therefore their kishalon, their downfall is imminent, imminent. I was just speaking to one of my friends this morning who's very well versed in in the goings on of the world. And she said, the next 2 weeks is going to be a big roller coaster because the next 2 weeks until Trump gets inaugurated. I think they should make a secret ceremony and inaugurate him, not in public, and inaugurate him early so that, I know that the other one won't want to give up even 1 minute of his presidency, but he's not doing anything anyway, just saying silly things and giving ridiculously evil people prizes for being ridiculously evil. But the next 2 weeks, we have to hang in there. What's the English date today? I don't even know. But I think there's 2 more weeks until, what's it called, January 20th? Okay. The Beis HaMikdash, now just to show you a little bit of current events in the Parsha and in the teachings of the Tzaddikim. So we said that Yaakov Avinu showed them the Beis HaMikdash. We're going to see the next Medrash, which is the one that you know about. He tried to show them the date of the final revelation of Mashiach, and that was obscured. But right now he showed them the victory of the victory of the Jewish people over Gog. By the way, Gog is honored in that he's buried. He gets to be buried here in Eretz Yisrael. His body is not incinerated; it's buried here along with all of his, many of his army. The Navi says it might take up to 7 months to bury all the dead who come to attack us. Now, again, because the tzaddikim say that this particular war does not have to happen, because the negative prophecies, as you know, Rav Saadia Gaon said, negative prophecies do not have to materialize. Meaning, if it's a threat and we do tshuva, so the threat goes away. Just like the whole book of Yonah is about that. Hashem said to Yonah, tell Nineveh, that city of the non-Jewish city of Nineveh, they're going to be destroyed. And Yonah didn't want to do it, and whatever, until he did, went in the fish, the big fish, whatever. But then when he finally went to them, they did a big tshuva, and they were not destroyed. And Yonah said to Hashem, I told you that's why I didn't want to go, because they're going to consider Yonah a false prophet, because he said they were going to be destroyed, and they don't understand that the power of tshuva, or maybe they do, when Yonah didn't want to have a negative ramifications on the Jewish people, who we also have to do teshuvah. But in this week's parsha, so here we have some current events. Why? Because when he showed the Jewish people the Beis HaMikdash, one of the code names of the Beis HaMikdash is, who knows? Of the many code names like Tzion, Har HaBayit, and all of that, another code name is called Lebanon. Lebanon. Why? So there's a few reasons. One reason is because many of the original Beis HaMikdash that Shlomo HaMelech built, he went and he imported Arzei Lebanon, cedars of Lebanon. There are cedar trees that are growing in Lebanon, in the north of Israel, and that's what he used as the basis for building the building. So since so many of those cedar trees, Arzei Lebanon, were used to build the Beit HaMikdash, so one of the code names for the Beit HaMikdash is Lebanon. But also the Medrash tells us, Vayikra Rabbah says, Lebanon milashon alev, like the heart. The word Lebanon is made up of two words, lev and nun. If you look at it, lev, lamed bet, nun vav nun, that's how you write it in Hebrew. Lebanon is how you say it, made up of two words. Lev, which means the heart. Nun is the name of Mashiach ben Yosef, Yehoshua bin Nun. Lifnei Shemesh, that which is written in Navi, and in Tehillim, Ayin Beis, chapter 72 in Tehillim, Lifnei Shemesh, before the world was created, Yinon Shemo. Hashem gave the name Yinon or Nun. He made up the name for Mashiach. And so Levanon is the heart of Mashiach. That's why it's called the Beis HaMikdash. Ve'alev ha'pnimiyut Adam, right? And the idea is that he showed the Jewish people the Beit HaMikdash because he said to them, you people, even though you're so different and varied, and sometimes you fight, and sometimes you don't get along, but in the root of roots, the heart of hearts, the deepest part of you is all the same. All of us share the same soul. And therefore, Yaakov Avinu was trying to emphasize exactly what Yosef Atzadik was trying to emphasize. What was Yosef Atzadik trying to emphasize? Remember, he said when he finally, he had his dreams, and we always ask the question of why did he reveal those dreams to his brothers? It's like, if you have, now he would say, B'li ayin hara, k'nayin hara, they would, nobody would reveal such a dream, especially if the implication of that dream is that everything was so, one second. The implication of the dream was that the brothers were going to be, that Yosef was going to be master of them. So why would he reveal such a dream? And so the Baal Shem HaKadosh and the Ari HaKadosh say the following. Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Perdisher says also. They say that when Yosef, when he revealed those dreams, he wasn't saying to them, I'm going to be better than you. He was showing them the unity of Klal Yisrael, and that in the unity of Klal Yisrael, every one of us has a job to do. His job is to be the first ruler, and then Yehuda's job is going to be the second ruler, and then Yisachar and Zvulun, their job is going to be the Torah relationship that they have between them, and Asher is going to be the agricultural society, and Naphtali is going to be the manufacturer, and everybody's going to be what they're going to be. And Yosef at Tzaddik, because he was at Tzaddik, he only saw unity. He only saw souls. He didn't see individuality. But the brothers were not on his level. That's why, now it's crazy for us to say that, because if we would see the Shivtei Ka, right, they were the tribes of God, each one of them was on such a high level spiritually that we would think each one was God. That was so high. They were so holy. Nevertheless, Yosef HaTzadik had a higher hasaga than they did. How do we know that? Because Yaakov Avinu taught Yosef HaTzadik. Of all the boys, we know that he was the one who taught. That was the one that he put all of his Torah into. Yaakov Avinu, he taught all of them. They were all adult men. They were all always learning about Hashem, and they all are always learning Torah on the level that the Torah was at that time. But Yaakov Avinu especially singled out that Yosef was going to be his primary Talmud because Yosef had that higher level. He had the tzaddik mindset, and so, Yosef Tzaddik was so upset when he began to tell the dreams, and he tried to just explain to everybody what's going to happen instead of coming together as a group and discussing it and preparing for it and elevating it and praying about it. They got angry with him. It's like if you go to somebody and you ask them to give you musar, and they do, and then you get angry with them. If you go to somebody and you ask them to help you to become a better person, and to tell you, one second, I have a little bit of emergency. Sweetie pie, another 2 minutes. I'm in the middle of a class. Please wait another 2 minutes, okay? 1 second now, where'd you go? How come I always have emergencies during the hour that I teach, if it's in class, if I'm in class in person, so I can the girls always laugh when I have to stop with any of the grandchildren. But when I'm on Zoom, I have to, anyway. So it's as if, again, you're trying to say to somebody, let's say you're a trainer. let's say you're a basketball player and you have a trainer. You pay a guy a lot of money to try to train you, and he says, "Okay, listen, you did this wrong, you did that wrong. Do it this way, do it that way." Could you imagine if you get angry with him? It would be ridiculous. You're paying him to train you so that you should be successful. So when he's telling you what you need to do, listen and accept it and fix yourself. That way you'll be successful. And that's why Yosef HaTzadik was so heartbroken when his brothers turned against him and then they sold him and then he had to make that whole, he had to go. We were not ready for him. We were not ready to be, one sec. Just a second. I'm really sorry. I'm apologizing. Sorry. I'm apologizing. So Yosef HaTzadik, because we were not ready to have him rule over us and in wealth and in greatness, because we were not ready for that. So we had to wait all those years, and Yaakov Avinu had to suffer, and everything had to happen because we were not on the right level. You know that every single year, every single generation has Mashiach. There's somebody in this generation who's Mashiach. Okay? And if we're not ready, and if we're not going to get our act together, he's going to fizzle out, and it's not going to happen. We have to all push ourselves to be the best we can be. And when we see that we're doing not good, we have to just do tshuva. That's it. Because we don't want to have another generation where we'll say the story of, oh, it could have happened then. Look how Hashem set the world up. Iran and America and Russia and China and the whole Middle East and everything. And Hashem set it up, and it could be any second it could be fixed. And then we blew it. Chas v'shalom. We don't want that to happen. So everybody has to be, each person has to improve. Okay, the next thing we have to learn about this is that when the medrash that you do know, the explanation that you do know, that Hashem, that Yaakov Avinu said, come together, and I'll tell you what happens at the end of time. And then Rashi says what? What are the exact words? V'nit kasem mimenu. Melamed sheba legalot lahem et haketz. This teaches us that he came to tell them exactly the date when Mashiach is going to come. V'nit kasem mimenu, and it was hidden from him. So what does that mean? So we always said it meant because, listen, this story that I'm just telling you happened 3,500 years ago, when Yaakov Avinu was sitting with the brothers, or maybe even more, 4,000 years ago. Could you imagine if he had to say to them, and by the way, in 4,000 years from now, we're going to have a case, we're going to have the Mashiach. It's like when there are certain tzaddikim who tell us the breakdown of the 10,000-year history of planet Earth, right? And they say, okay, we're in 5,785 till the year 6,000, and then everything switches. So now how many years is that? 85, that's 15. There's 215 years left till the year 6,000. Does that feel relevant to you to say the number 215 years? And in 215 years, Mashiach has to come, Tchias HaMesim has to happen, the building of the Beis HaMikdash, the whole world has to, and then comes the Shabbos where everything switches over. And then there's 1,000 years of emptiness. Then there's 1,000 years of another thing and another thing until you get to Olam Haba. When they talk about these 1,000-year intervals, which is written in Kabbalah, in the mystical literature, it's written till the year 10,000. Then Olam Haba starts, or the beginning of the year 10,000. So Olam Haba starts. So what is that? How do you feel when you start hearing about 215 years from now and then 1,000 years from now? It's irrelevant to us. In other words, it's not even irrelevant. It would be relevant to if you felt hopeless when you heard those words. That's called relevant because you think you're trying to make it practical in your life. And if you don't feel anything, it's because it's just so far away. So if Yaakov Avinu would have said to them by the year 2000, by the year that we're in now, if 4,000 years ago he would have said to them, in 4,000 years from now, Mashiach is going to come, it's not going to be right. So that's one explanation of why Nitkasem that he lost the Ruach HaKodesh at that moment, and he forgot. He couldn't see, it was blurry, and he saw, then he realized Hashem doesn't want him to say, so he didn't say. But listen to what the Shem Yishmael says. He says something that's so amazing. It's just so amazing. He says, it's not that he forgot. Just the opposite. He saw the Mashiach's time. And he saw the revelation of the Shekhinah, of the presence of God in this world. He saw what had been hidden from him. Remember that for 22 years, Yaakov Avinu, when the whole time that Yosef, he didn't know where he was, Yaakov Avinu had no experience of the Shekhinah. He lost all of his prophecy. He had a terrible, it's like, you know how you feel when Shabbos is over, or you know how you feel when let's say, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Simchas Torah, when the whole season is over, when Cheshvan starts, you feel like that emptiness, or whatever, any big event happens and it's over, so you feel like empty a little bit. So could you imagine 22 years worth of that? That must have been unbearable. They say about Shaul HaMelech that's what he experienced when David was crowned, was anointed king while Shaul was still alive, unbeknownst to Shaul. And then Shaul lost the special neshama of the king because it went over to David. So he had that terrible depression. They call it depression. It wasn't a depression like, like people have a depression because you weren't invited to a wedding or you didn't get a good seat at a whatever. It was a feeling that his soul something was missing from his soul. Anyway, so now Yaakov Avinu, he's seeing the Mashiach. It's at the end of his days. He's on his deathbed. He's seeing the Geula. He's seeing this world. He's seeing the presence of God enter and descend into this world and fill the world up with the most intoxicatingly exquisite, delicious ecstasy. And he's looking at that. So that's what the Shem Yishmael says. He says it wasn't that he forgot. He saw the case. He saw the end. He saw now. Maybe he even saw us learning together. And he wondered, like, what am I talking to this thing? And what are all those people on the thing? He wouldn't even know what to call it. Whatever it is, but because Yaakov Avinu saw this, and he experienced what we're going to soon experience is the revelation of godliness in this world. Hayamar Eze shall be at HaMashiach nakel v'namuch beinav listakel bo v'hesech datom imenu listakel b'shchina. So instead of focusing on telling the kids, by the way, in the year 5785, Mashiach is coming. Instead of telling them that, when he saw the actual Shekhinah presence in front of him, that's going to come here in this day that we're going to be, he just started looking at the Shekhinah. He just couldn't take his eyes off the Shekhinah. And he said, oh, to tell them this is, he had like a Hesach Hadas. He said, to talk about the date is lower than to experience what I'm experiencing right now. And so he didn't tell them when the date was. Instead, he just experienced Mashiach. Because the sweetness, the ha'arevut, and the deliciousness, shel mar'at hashchina, lakhu mimenu kol chushav, by watching the Shekhinah presence, by looking at the Shekhinah, by experiencing what me and you, regular people, are going to be experiencing soon. It was so delicious to him. It was so indescribably delicious to him that it took away all of his logical, all of his regular chushim, his senses. And then he just forgot to look at the date there. The date's in front of him, but he's looking at the Shekhinah. And he says, what should I look at the date, the number? I'm looking at the Shekhinah presence. And that's what it meant. He just didn't look anymore at world history because he saw the end of time. And that's what Rabbi Nachman says, always look every single day, make believe that this is the day when Mashiach is coming. I don't know if I'm going to wear this when Mashiach is going to come. Maybe I will. But I don't know if you remember when this year first started, which was when I first started learning with you, which was 23, 4 years ago, I remember we all had like this thing. We all went out and bought something to wear, like our Mashiach outfit. Of course, that's not this, what I wore then. I remember I bought a pair of shoes. I bought a special pair of shoes because who would have thought that we're going to have a train from Har Nof to the Beis Hamikdash? Like I didn't. Who would have thought such a thing? And I want, buses you can't go on because I don't know, they're probably halachically problematic. But a train they can make a Shomer Shabbos, just like they can make an elevator Shomer Shabbos. So I remember I went specially to buy a pair of shoes to walk to the Beis Hamikdash from Har Nof. It was going to take us a couple hours, but okay, I have my shoes and I kept them, until actually they were not comfortable anymore. That's why I ditched them. But that's what we're going to have. And that's what the Targum says. The Targum Yonasan says exactly this whole parish, that when he began to see the fixed world and the presence of the Shekhinah in the whole world, not just in his own Dalet Amot. You know that Yaakov Avinu now, for the first 70 years, all of his life, he had the Shekhinah presence, and except for those 22 years that Yosef Atzadik was not Ne'elam, wasn't with him. So he was used to the Shekhinah presence, to see that. He was used to being a prophet. But he hadn't seen the whole story. He saw his own individual. When he began to see the whole story. So could you imagine what that's going to be like? So what's the point? The point is that when that happens, we're going to forget everything that we went through. We're going to forget all the problems and all the sadness and all the frustrations and all the disappointments and all the confusion. We'll even forget our Yetzer Hara, because the Yetzer Tov is going to be our beings are going to be so full of the experience of experiencing Hashem while we're in a body, that nothing else will come close to that. Yaakov Avinu, in this week's Parsha, he experiences it. Nothing comes close to that. Even trying to pacify and to try to help his own kids and tell them when the Mashiach is going to come, nothing comes close to the experience of the Shekhinah presence. And so that's what we have to look forward to. And that's why at that point, all of our questions will be answered and all of the mysteries will be cleared up, etc., etc. And it's going to be now. We just have to really try a little harder. I'm talking to me. I can't talk to you. You're all Sidkaniyot. But I can talk to me and say, when I get annoyed with somebody, just think about this. Think about it. And the roots were the same. One of my students gave me an amazing meditation, which I use all the time, especially when I'm on buses. Anybody who lives in Israel, so you understand. One of the ladies at the Shir on Monday said a great thing. I'm going to repeat it. Vera, our precious friend Vera, she said, she made Aliyah 8 years ago, but only last week she became an Israeli. Why? Because she went to the Kotel on Zot Chanukah, on the last day of Chanukah, when there were another 80,000 people there. And she needed to get on the bus to go back home. And if anybody's ever been, so I was just at the Kotel Baruch Hashem yesterday, and the buses were crowded. You have to wiggle your way onto a bus. You have to sort of disappear your body to fit into the bus. So she said that the first bus came and there were 1 million people, they all crowded on. She didn't get on that bus. Second bus came, 1 million people crowded. She was in the front of their line, but they all came in. So the third bus she got on, and she's in the last minute, and she had her hand on the door of the bus. The bus wouldn't close, the door wouldn't close because she had her hand and her foot halfway. She was halfway on the bus. And the bus driver screaming at her, get off of the bus. And she said, I will not get off this bus. She said, I'm getting on this bus. And they shifted and they got her somehow. She said 8 years she moved to Israel, but only last week she became an Israeli. So sometimes, on the buses, you get a little bit impatient. You get a little bit, this one pushes, this one screams, this is And so one of my friends told me a very great meditation, which I use all the time. And I say, oh, that one that just pushed me, that's my grandson. That's my granddaughter. That's my kid. I look at the age of the person. I think I told you this once. I look at the age of the person and I imagine in my mind who in my life, my personal life that I care about is parallel to that person. And then I say, oh, that's, and I feel, that person. And of course, if my grandson pushes me, I'll say, oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I'll say, oh, he slipped. If my granddaughter gives a yell, oh, she's whatever. Everybody has, you can make excuses for everybody that you love. It says in the Chazal, ha'ahava mekalkelet et ashura. When you love somebody, you make excuses for them. Everything goes. So, Be'ezrat Hashem, when that happens, we have to try to remember that in the root, we're all the same. And Hashem, we don't want to blow it this time. We don't want to let this, and we're going to get tested. We're all being tested now. Everybody's going through stuff and remembering stuff that they haven't gotten rid of. And we're all going through. So let's hang in there and do the best that we can. And maybe Mashiach will come and we'll see Yaakov Avinu and he'll say to us, you see what you're seeing now? That's what I was seeing when I just couldn't. I could only look at that and I could only experience that. So nothing else was important. Okay, ladies, have a good Shabbos, a good week. Thank you for everybody for coming. Every week, it's Wednesday, the same time, same place, same, all the same things. Sometimes the last minute put up the links. I'm so sorry that I'm last minute. Sometimes I do that, but it's always the same schedule every week. This channel link on Zoom, this channel link on YouTube, and Bezrat Hashem. Let me say hi to everybody that I can see the faces of. 1 second. Hi, Marcel, and hi, Elaine, and hi, Elspia, and hi, Gitzi, and hi, Yehudis, and hi, Chana, and Chana. And everybody should be safe and well, and hi, me. I see myself also there. Everybody should be safe. Thank you, Gitzi, for arranging everything as always, and for coordinating everything. And thank you all the people who pay. Yeah, Gitzi is in charge of getting money for these shiurim and paying the teachers. So everybody who pays, thank you, because it's hard for her to do that. And she has to, all the people on YouTube, if you want to, wait, 052-405-5623. That's her number in Israel. And you can contact her if you want to support the shiur. And Bezrat Hashem, Besarot Tovot for everybody, and Lili Nishmas, all the Chayalim and all the people who perished in this war, and for the Zechus of all the Shvuyim, all the hostages, and all the Chayalim, all the soldiers, and all the police, and all the border control, and all the people who are protecting us. They should have angels. Everyone should have an angel protecting them, and if anything comes towards that person, the angel should deflect it and point it back to the terrorist that shot it. And the special refuah shlema to my Rav Shlomo Yehuda Ben Zalia, and to his wife Rabbanit Adol Bat Anat. You should all feel good, and everybody should feel good. Bezrat Hashem, Bezrat Hashem. And see Svia's little boy Elimelech, he should stay strong and healthy, and stay far away from the Beit Refuah that they were in. Bezrat Hashem. Okay, bye everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Shabbos.
Bye.
Recording stopped.